Good morning. Hope you're well today. Some have asked me about this cool song that is my intro. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a minute. Use the Word of God as your sword this morning. Grab your sword. The song you're hearing is, as my intro, is one from a group called Messenger, recorded back in the early 1980s, and it's called Dragon Slayer. I'm actually going to do a little video to just give you some background on that and tell you where you can find it on the internet, and you can download it yourself. A great song that was produced at a time in which we just really experienced quite a revival among a youth group, and some really cool guys and gals involved with that group called Messenger. So I will actually put out some of that info since some of you have asked for it, so you can find it yourself, because it's not easy to find. When you do a Google search on things like dragons and dragon slaying, you are going to have a ton of stuff that has nothing to do with this song. So I'll get that to you in the future. Welcome to Wake Up in the Word. Today we are looking at another psalm, of course, and Psalm 39 is a great continuation in one respect of Psalm 38, and has some beautiful pictures for us today. So let's get right into the Word. Psalm 39. I said, I will guard my ways, so that I may not sin with my tongue. I'll guard my mouth with a muzzle, as long as the wicked are in my presence. I was speechless and quiet. I kept silent, even from speaking good, and my pain intensified. My heart grew hot within me as I mused. A fire burned. I spoke with my tongue, Lord, make me aware of my end and the number of my days, so that I will know how short-lived I am. Now, before we expound on that a little bit, I want you to notice two things. Number one, how careful he is about sin with the tongue. Don't you wish your friends were that careful? Don't you wish people weren't so quick with their impulses to snap back at people and to accuse and to make fun of and to criticize and to bully and all the other things that people will sometimes do thoughtlessly? Well, God says, I remember every word, and I know what you say, and I know the impact it has on others. God's going to hold them accountable. But listen, not only was David saying, I want to guard my ways, don't want to sin with my tongue, I want to guard my mouth, but I want to put something in perspective, and that's the length of my life. Now, how long is your life? He begins in verse 5 to expound on this a little bit. You may be thinking from the New Testament of James, who talks about how our life's like a vapor, appears for a little while, passes away. How when you look at the scope of eternity, we're here for a very short amount of time. Where did he get some of that? Well, he got some of it from the psalmist himself. Look at verse 5. In fact, you have made my days just inches long, and my lifespan is as nothing to you. Yes, every human being stands only as a vapor. Yes, a person goes about like a mere shadow. Indeed, they rush around in vain, gathering possessions without knowing who will get them. Now, Lord, what do I wait for? Well, my hope is in you. Rescue me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the taunt of fools. I'm speechless. I do not open my mouth because of what you have done. Remove your torment from me. Because of the force of your hand, I am finished. You discipline a person with punishment for iniquity, consuming like a moth what is precious to him. Yes, every human being is only a vapor. Notice the second time, a vapor. Now, what had David seen? If you're in the Middle East, as in many other places in the world, especially here in the southeastern United States, there are times when the fog rises, and then just as quickly as you see it, the sun rises, burns it off, and it's gone. It could be the vapor of anything from a fire to incense, but how quickly it disappears. So twice in this psalm, David likens our life to just a vapor. Here for a little while, you see it like smoke, and then it's gone. So what is he doing? He's putting in perspective what we may think is a very long life, but even if you live to be 80, 90, 100 years old, in the scope of eternity, it's a twinkling of an eye. So look what he says. Hear my prayer, Lord, and listen to my cry for help. Do not be silent at my tears, for I am here with you as an alien, a temporary resident like all my ancestors. Turn your angry gaze from me so that I may be cheered up before I die and am gone. So here's the Lord asking, now this is from the Christian Standard Bible, to be cheered up. Lord, restore my happiness, restore my good feelings with you. I love the way John Phillips puts it. He said David's plan is basically he wanted to be three things by the end of this psalm. He wanted to be happy again. Now listen to how he expands on this a little bit. He says, look, when our situation is so desperate that we're reduced to tears in the presence of God, we can be quite sure that we have finally found the language that persuades. Our tears melt God's heart and move His hand. Somebody would say, oh, we can't make God move. We can't push God into anything that He doesn't choose. That's true. But God has throughout His Word told us over and over and over again that He chooses to be moved by the prayers of His people. So if you get the fatalistic view that, well, nothing I say to God will matter, then God will just let you alone. Oh, listen, friends, He won't intervene in your life if you are flippant and complacent about it. But when you call to Him, He says, I promise to answer the prayers of my people. That's His promise, not our imagination. Listen to how he goes on. Farsighted as he was, David knew there can be no happiness without holiness, for God has joined the two together. There is, of course, pleasure without purity, but there can be no happiness without holiness. So he said, David wanted to be happy again, he wanted to be holy again, and he wanted to be healthy again. In that very last verse, he points out how being right with God really helps him to have a healthy walk. In the King James it said, "Oh, spare me that I may recover strength before I go hence and be no more." That's much more poetic than the Christian Standard Bible, but it still fits when he says, turn your angry gaze from me so that I may be cheered up before I die and I am gone. Well, David did get better. His affliction was carrying him swiftly down to the doors of death. He was feeling bad. He was sensing all the physical repercussions of carrying guilt and sin in his life, and he wanted to be free from that. So as he sought God's forgiveness and a holy walk with the Lord again, he would find not only spiritual forgiveness, but he would find health for his own body. So friends, as you struggle with maybe health issues today, just remember the best place you can be is in the center of God's will and right with Him. And every pill you take, every little bit of medicine that you may seek, every doctor's visit you take, it's all going to work better when your heart is fixed on the Lord and you're right with Him. Well, listen, I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me. We will look at another psalm even tomorrow and catch up with what God's doing in your life and all of our lives, and just pray that He continues to open the doors of blessing to His people. You have a great day in the Lord, and I'll see you again tomorrow on Wake Up in the Word.